Hello everyone, welcome to our discussion on the type study of class amphibia. And in type study, we are going to discuss in detail about the morphological as well as the anatomical details of the frog, which is called as Euphlectus hexadactylus. So, for the ease of discussion, we have divided the discussion of this type study into 10 different headings. We'll first discuss the external features or the external morphology, followed by the coelom and viscera, which is followed by the skeletal system, the digestive, respiratory, the circulatory system, the nervous system, the different sense organs, the excretory system, and at last the reproductive system. So these will be the topics which will be covered under the type study, which is Euphlectus hexadactylus, which involves the detailed discussion of all the systems and also the skeletal as well as the internal as well as the external morphological as well as the anatomical details. So our first discussion will be on the first portion or the first topic, which is the external features. Coming to the external features, this is a particular frog, the Euphlectus hexadactylus. It is a particular frog that is common in Kerala, and it is called as hexadactylus because it is having a rudimentary sixth digit in the hind limb, and that is why the name is given as hexadactylus, which denotes six dactylus, six digits. So in summer, these frogs, they undergo aestivation. Either they will remain in deep, cool water, or they bury themselves in mud. The body is more or less streamlined, which is adapted for swimming in water, and the body is divisible into head and trunk without a neck. The tail is absent in the adult. The tail fins, and the gills are present in the larva, which is called as the tadpole larva. At the anterior end, there is a very wide mouth, as you can see here. The mouth is very wide in the case of frog. There is a very wide mouth that is present in the anterior end of the body. You can see a uh, very wide mouth, and at the anterior or the at the a pair of nostrils are situated above the mouth here. There is a large bulging eyes, and the eyes is having the eyelids, where the upper eyelid, there are two eyelids. The upper eyelid is immovable, whereas the lower one is movable, and the eyes is also protected by the transparent membrane or semi-transparent membrane, which is called as the nictitating membrane, which protects the eye when they swim in water or when they move underwater. The tympanum is present behind and below the eyes, as you can see here. Here you have a very large tympanum. The cloacal aperture. So cloaca is the common opening for the reproductive, the excretory, as well as the digestive system. That is a common opening, and the cloacal aperture. Aperture is the opening of the cloaca to outside, and that is situated at the posterior end of the trunk. Coming to the next external feature, the limbs, there are two pairs of pentadactyl limbs. Pentadactyly refers to five digits or five fingers in both the fingers in the forelimb as well as in the hind limb, in the toes and also the hands. And as we said, there is a rudimentary sixth digit in the hind limbs. The forelimb is divisible into the regions: the upper arm, the forearm, the wrist, the palm, and the digits. The hind limb is also divided into the thigh, the shank, the ankle, the instep, the digits of the hind limb is called as the toes. The toes are jointed by a fold of skin which forms a web which helps in swimming. The forelimbs are very short and they are weak, and it just supports the body on land, and it does not provide any support in locomotion. The hind limbs are very powerful and they are muscular, and they help in the leaping motion inland and also in swimming in water. Coming to sexual dimorphism is the morphological differences that is shown by the males and females of the same species. And in some species, you can see that both male and female will be almost the same. You cannot distinguish them morphologically. But in some organisms, or in most of the organisms, the male and the female is morphologically as well as genetically, in most cases, they are also genetically different. In this case, they will be morphologically as well as genetically different, and the morphological differences are being discussed here. So, in this, the sexual dimorphism, the males are smaller than females. The males have a swelling in the first finger of the forelimb and in the forelimb, and that is called as the nuptial pad. So this nuptial pad develops only during the breeding season, and the main function of this nuptial pad is to grip the female during copulation or mating. And a pair of skin pouches is seen at the junction of the upper and the lower jaw, and this fold of skin is called as the vocal sacs. Okay, the vocal sacs actually it opens, or it is having an opening in the buccal cavity. As a result, the air from the buccal cavity will be filled, can be filled in the vocal sac, and this particular vocal sacs, they are used as amplifiers. Sound will be produced from the sound box, and this sound is being amplified, or the resonating sound is amplified this by this particular structure, which is called as a vocal sac. So these are the main differences of morphological differences that you see between the males and females in Euplectus hexadactylis. Coming to the skin, that is also the external, that is also the feature that is discussed under the external features. The skin is smooth, slimy, and loosely attached to the body wall. Here you can see the diagrammatic section of the skin, cross section of the skin, and also the actual cross section of the skin can be seen here. So the skin, when you see from outside, it is darker in the dorsal side and lighter in the ventral side. The skin contains two regions. So here you can see the upper portion, the epidermis, and the lower portion called as the dermis. The epidermis is divided into two regions. The uppermost region of 3 to 4 cells is called as stratum corneum, and the lowermost layer is called as stratum malpighi. The stratum corneum houses the flattened dead cells which are worn out continuously or periodically, and this stratum malpighi, or the Malpighian layer, consists of actively dividing cells. The cells of stratum malpighi divide and they move up and they form the portion or part of stratum corneum, which will shed periodically. The underlying the Malpighian layer, you have the dermis, and the dermis is made up of the connective tissue containing, you have, can see the blood vessels here, the pigment cells, the nerves, etc. are present in the collagen fibers, etc. are present in the dermis. And you can see, so this in this particular figure, this much is the epidermis. The upper some layers are so these layers, this are the actual dead cells which will be worn out. So this particular layer of 2 to 3 cells are called as the stratum corneum, and the underlying layer is called as the stratum malpighi. So below this, these particular regions are that of the dermis. The mucus gland is situated in the dermis, so you can see here. So these are the mucus glands. So cutaneous or the mucus glands. Here, these white structures are the mucus glands, and these mucus glands, they produce a mucus which provide the slimy nature of the skin, and there are small ducts arising from these glands. This in the section, this is not clear. Here you can see that small ducts arising from each gland, and the mucus will be secreted on top of the stratum corneum by this particular, or through this particular ducts. Uh, Another feature or another structure that is seen in the dermis is the chromatophores of the pigment cells. The chromatophores or the pigment cells, they lie just below the Malpighian layer. It is a layer of cells that is called as a chromatophores or the pigment cells that is responsible for producing the color variation in frogs. They are capable of slow color change according to the surrounding, and this is affected by the distribution of these cells. So when they are in a darker environment, their skin becomes darker. They cannot completely change the color. The color becomes more darker, and that is because of the distribution. All the chromatophores, they come concentrated on top under the Malpighian layer, so that the color becomes more darker. And when they are in a lighter environment, all the cells will be scattered in the dermal layer. When they need a darker color, all the chromatophores, they come just beneath the Malpighian layer of the epidermis, so that they have a darker. All the pigment cells are now concentrated at a particular layer, and when they need a lighter shade, this will be distributed throughout the dermis, so that the shade becomes lighter. So that is how they adjust their color. So this is with the skin and the structures associated with the skin. And next we are moving on to the coelom and viscera. So in coelom, as you see here, I have taken or put the diagram of a human diagram which shows the coelom. So this was just to compare, because if you have a clear idea of what is in humans. You can compare it with any other animals. That's why I have put it with that of humans here. So here in the case, if I zoom in here, okay, as you can see here, there are the different organs. As you can see here, the lungs, the heart, the liver, the small intestine, the stomach, the large intestine, the pancreas, everything are present here. And you can see here there is a demarcation. So this demarcation here, you have the diaphragm, and there is a cavity here, and it is in this cavity the organs are present. And the cavity where the organs are present is called as the thoracic cavity, and this cavity where these organs are called as the or these organs are present are called as the abdominal cavity, and below there is a small cavity which is called as the below this there is a small cavity which is called as the pelvic cavity. And in this cavity you can see that there is a white marking or a white border for every organ, and this white border is a very small space which is called as the coelom. And you can see that the coelom is usually lined by two layers of epidermal cells, sorry, mesodermal cells. And the two layers are the one layer is the mesodermal cells which is lining the body wall, that this black lining, and the other mesodermal layer is the one which is lining the internal organs. And the mesodermal lining of the body wall in the sense you can see here. So this is a cross section of the body, and this is the body wall, and this pink line is a mesodermal layer which is seen just adjacent to the body wall, and you can see a space which is shown in blue here, and also you can see a pink lining in the internal organs. So this particular pink lining which is seen adjacent to the body wall is called as the parietal peritoneum, and the one which is lining the mesodermal layer which is lining uh, the internal organs is called as the visceral peritoneum, and there is a space between these two. So you have a membrane covering the internal organs, and also there is a membrane covering the or membrane which is just adjacent to the body wall. So between these two membranes you have a space which is filled with the coelomic fluid, and this space is called as the coelom. And these two membranes are connected at certain points. You can see this is a membrane which is surrounding the organs, and you have a membrane here, and at certain points these two membranes are connected, and they are connected at when they enter or in each organ, they form a connection when they enter each organ. These two are connected, and the connected parietal peritoneum and the visceral peritoneum forms another structure, or the combined structure, or the combined membrane which is formed by the parietal as well as the visceral peritoneum is called as the mesenteries. So you can see mesenteries in between every organ, and it is through these mesenteries the blood vessels and nerves enter every organ. So that's with the coelom. So these spaces are called as a coelom. And another importance with the coelom is that you can see that uh, in this particular case, you can see every organ is having a common parietal peritoneum, and they will have their individual visceral peritoneum. But when you come to the case with heart and lungs, you can see lungs is having the normal parietal peritoneum and the visceral peritoneum, but heart is having its own or a separate peritoneum, and that separate peritoneum of the heart is called as the pericardium. So heart is suspended in a special coelomic or a special layer membrane of coelom that is called as the pericardium. And there is another one more exception, an organ which is present. You can see most of the organs are inside this coelomic cavity, and there is an organ which is seen outside the coelomic cavity, and that is the kidney. Kidney is present in the pelvis. So this is the abdominal cavity. Below this and in the back side, you have the pelvic cavity, and kidney is in the pelvic cavity. As a result, it is outside the coelom. It is not inside the coelomic or inside the coelom. So that's what is we are discussing here. So the cavity or the body cavity has mesodermal lining along the inner surface. So this is this black line which is called as the parietal peritoneum. The most of the internal organs lie in the coelom. The visceral organs are covered by this lining of all the organs. The black lining of all the organs are called as the visceral peritoneum. They are continuous so that the internal organs are suspended by a double layer of peritoneum called as the mesenteries. So in every organ they form a continuous So from here, this is separate, and here these two join here in every organ, and every organ seems to be suspended in a double layered membrane, and that connection of the double membranes is called as the peritoneum. Oh, sorry, mesenteries. The nerves and blood vessels pass to the organs through this mesenteries. Previously, mesenteries were considered as part of the coelom, and now they have designated or they have given the status of organ. Mesentery is now considered as a separate organ. They have given the status of an organ. The perivisceral coelom is filled with the coelom. That is the white color. The white space is the perivisceral space that is filled with the coelomic fluid. The heart lies in another region of the coelom, which is separated by the pericardial membrane. That's why I said that it is having a special membrane other than the visceral peritoneum of the lungs. The kidneys lie outside the coelom. So this is with the coelom and viscera in frog. The same as with humans. The next discussion will be of the skeletal system. We'll discuss the skeletal system in the next session. In the skeletal system, we'll have a detailed discussion of the axial as well as the appendicular skeleton. So we'll discuss that in the next video or next session. Thanks for hearing.